One of the things that I tell other women nowadays is always be one of the first 3 people to speak. If you don't, they'll think you're not there. So I learned that at Dartmouth, and that was valuable. And I've stuck with it ever since.
Everybody, please meet Debby. Debby is the co-founder and managing partner of New York-based StarVest Partners, founded in 1998 to invest in technology-enabled business services and one of the largest women majority-owned venture capital firms. Debby is also a director of Dayforce, Cumulus Media, and Planful. What an incredible resume there. Debby graduated from HBS in 1976, where she served on the visiting committee as vice president of the Alumni Association, and she's been chair of the HBS Club of New York, and a fantastic one at that. She is a graduate of Smith College and served on its Board of Trustees. She's been named to the Forbes Midas List of top 100 venture capitalists, received the Foreign Policy Association Medal for Achievement in Financial Services, and in 2025 received the Smith College Medal, the highest medal that they offer, and the HBS Alumni Achievement Award, also the highest medal that HBS offers. So Debby, congratulations. Incredible. You must be like, can't believe you did all this.
You don't realize what a journey it's been, except in times like this. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today.
Well, it all started at HBS. So let's go back to when you first got to HBS. Tell us about your decision to go. Like, what was the pathway there and why did you decide to go?
In 1972, when I graduated from college, the world was changing. The Vietnam War, the civil rights movement, the women's movement. It was really a new day. And I think women felt the ability and indeed the need to be pioneers. Smith College was the largest women's college. And where better to find women for jobs and graduate schools than the largest women's college? I was the career and graduate school contact in the senior class as part of the senior house. So I would get calls for every job, every graduate school that was coming, which is actually a great position to be in. And I got a call one day from the career office, and they said, someone from Harvard Business School would like to come. And I said, oh, Harvard Business School. That could be very difficult because most of these seniors wanted to go into law or public service, and business at the time was considered a bit materialistic. So I said, let me see what I can do. I gathered 10 friends of mine who were economics majors. We spent time with the career recruiter, and she asked me at the end of this period, why don't you apply? And I said, I will. So I applied. I was accepted as a senior in college. And 6 other women from my class at Smith ended up going to HBS when I did. So it was terrific. We had a lot of company, and it really smoothed our path and gave us a built-in network system better than almost anyone else there had.
Oh, I'm sure that was fortuitous. But so when you get to HBS, what were some of the things that struck you the most that, you looked around and you go, oh my gosh, I'm here. What were some of the challenges? What were some of the opportunities that you saw? And who was in your class and who was in your section? All those.
I know. In which section?
Section I. It was great. Very good. Yes. And we are still a close section to this day. In fact, yesterday, we had a call, which we have a Zoom call every quarter. And usually about 16 to 20 people get together and share thoughts, ideas, and what they've been doing. So it's really been a journey, and my 50th reunion is next year. So we've kept in touch for 50 years, which has been extraordinary and really quite rewarding. My section, as you may recall, one of the most traumatic things was opening the class, being called on, especially the first day of a class, to open it. So I remember one of the experiences that I had. First of all, I'll tell you, Everyone that was not called on the very first day of the very first class, first year, was very thankful. I'll never forget the person that did, who was a friend of mine to this day as well. But it was not me. And they asked why. He asked later why he was called, and they said, because you served in Vietnam and we thought you could take it.
Oh,
Pretty good answer. Huh?
told him the answer.
Yes. But anyway, the second year we had an investment class, and the gentleman who taught it happened to know my father, who had been on Wall Street, and he knew him. So he called on me the first day, and I started the class. And then he called on me the second day of class, which almost never happens.
You would have thought that you would have skated by.
Yes. And then he called on me the third day of class, and I said, I couldn't help myself. I said, you must be kidding. Really? And so afterwards, I went to see him, and I said, why is this? He said, well, I thought I'd give you the opportunity for airtime. And I said, you've done enough. Thank you. That's fine. So it was very, very funny. And, in retrospect, you just have to laugh at it. And then there was another opportunity, another thing that I remember. And you remember these things because they help establish the impression that people had of you at school. And you may recall, or I don't know if they still had it when you were there, the written analysis of cases. It was the first thing we had that we were graded on. You were given the assignment on a Thursday. You had to write up a case, and you had to hand it in by Friday night at 11 o'clock. So what happened on Friday night at 11 o'clock, there was a torch-lit pathway to the box at Baker Library that you had to put your report into. And people would be running down this path.
And you get there by 11.
Yes. Torches, running down, get it in by 11. So the first report that we had that was graded was one of these written analysis of cases. And I opened mine up, and it said, excellent plus.
Wow.
I was shocked. The person next to me also saw it, told everybody in my section, and everybody was convinced I was going to be a Baker Scholar. I was not. But it really helped with the reputation, and it was just an incredibly interesting example, and an example of how certain things can build your credibility and pave the way for you, and that was a lesson that I learned. Now, you also asked me who was in my section, so
yeah,
I did make some notes on that, and it was very, very interesting. We had the first woman from Japan to attend HBS was in my section. A fellow from Singapore who, when he arrived, was the Assistant Secretary of Defense for Singapore. We all wondered, what does he do in that job? Anyway, today, he's extraordinary. He was on the call with us the other day, and he became the architect for the reinvention of Singapore from a simple assembly site of parts that other people made, other countries made, to a technology hub that was an extraordinary leader for Asia. So he architected that. That was Philip Yeo.
Brilliant.
We had a gentleman from the Philippines who was in government. So we had a great contingent from Asia and from France. Very interesting juxtaposition. And then other people who were in my class were Scott Cook, the founder of Intuit, who's a friend.
Yes.
John Doerr, a well-known venture capitalist. And Donis Samaras, who was the Prime Minister of Greece, the CEO and Chairman of Random House, and Barbara Bry, who was a politician and entrepreneur from San Diego. So that was a very impressive group to go to school with. Yes.
What a section. Could you have envisioned that you would have those notables in your own section? I mean, when you were with them at the time?
No. The short answer. People evolve, people change. Most people were just 2 years out of school, maybe 4, very few more. And it was a great leveler. So you didn't exactly know who would be doing what, but you did know who could speak well in class and who volunteered. That actually was probably a leading indicator.
Oh, and what a testament that you've maintained those friendships and those relationships. I mean, you used it. It's extraordinary. And kudos to all of you. Let's talk a little bit now about your childhood.
Of course. Yes.
And I loved too, Debbie, when we chatted and, getting ready for our conversation today, that you give equal credit to both your mom and your dad. and that
Definitely.
they both had great impact on who you are but in unique and different ways. So let's start with your dad, who you said basically, loved and adored you and your sisters and just raised you that you could do anything.
Yes.
And I love that.
I came from a close family of 3 sisters, no boys. And occasionally we'd say to my father, and I know I've used this once before when I was interviewed by Harvard, don't you wish you had a boy? And he's, no, boys, I wouldn't know what to do with a boy. I love my girls. And that was sort of the defining thought for us.
I love him.
He always said, you can do anything. He expected us to be leaders, to excel. He was an enthusiast and an optimist, and often said, enthusiasm makes the difference, as did my mother. So that was an important message growing up. He worked at Lehman Brothers. I went with him to see the floor of the New York Stock Exchange as a reward when I got all A's in my report card when I was 12 years old. And it was one of the most exciting things I had ever seen. So I thought that would be fun to be part of. So yes, my father had a big impact on me, and my mother too. My mother was an extraordinary person. She was the kindest person I'd ever known. She also really exemplified service to others. She was involved in the church. She was involved in Church World Service. She was president of the Garden Club. She just was a leader in almost everything she did in an extremely modest way. And so they both were wonderful role models and terrific encouragement as I and my sisters went along our various paths.
Yeah, it's like a perfect balance, right? And
wonderful.
Yeah,
it was.
And then talk to us too then about your education, because you were all the way through college in like all girls schools and then Smith College. And what factor did that play in like your life and your career and who you are?
It was very important. As a product of women's education, we were used to being the leaders. We chaired the clubs. We had the best grades, etc. So that was very important. And Smith College, I chose Smith because at the time it was the largest women's college, and none of the Ivy League was co-ed in 1968 when I applied to college. So I went to the largest women's college, and it had been known for producing women's leaders. And at that point, Gloria Steinman was a graduate of Smith College. So this was very important to me. We also produced Barbara Bush. We produced Betty Friedan, a whole mix of people. And so that was what I wanted to be. I thought it was my duty to be a pioneer, and that's what I wanted to be. So when it came time to doing something junior year, that was just when the Ivy League was considering admitting women, and they had something called the 12 College Exchange Program. I was able to apply to Dartmouth, which was not yet co-ed. I was accepted as one of 75 women, the first 75 to go there. Meryl Streep was also in my year. So it was quite amazing to be among 2,000 men, one of 75 women. That was where I really learned how to compete with men and also to speak out. I remember one of my classes, I think it was money and banking. I was the only woman. And so I had to speak, or else they would wonder, what is she doing there? So that was a valuable lesson to me. And one of the things that I tell other women nowadays is always be one of the first 3 people to speak. If you don't, they'll think you're not there. So I learned that at Dartmouth, and that was valuable. And I've stuck with it ever since.
I love that. You know what? I've made it a point as well, because it also it breaks the ice, right? Like
it does.
If you first comment or ask that first question, it makes it just a little less daunting or stressful. The other thing you shared with us too is that your lifestyle was middle class.
Yes.
And, it was a very comfortable, loving, middle class family. How did that factor into your life and then your career path going forward? Was that like an energizing source to aspire to bigger and better things, or you wanted to, replicate that beautiful life that you'd had?
Let me provide some context. First of all, in the 50s and 60s, everybody was middle class in the United States. In fact, I was doing some research on it, said that something like 99% of the people in the United States had incomes within a certain band. So it was just, family was important. People went to church or synagogue. We went to school, your parents were involved. So it was a very different lifestyle. And there were some real positives about it. We did not have, to make the point again, the income disparity that there is today in our society. So it really was, I think, a sort of a delightful way to grow up. And also college was much more affordable. It was $4,000 a year when people were making $40,000 or $50,000. Today, it's $100,000 or $200,000 a year when people are making, much. So it was very different. And I think it was very, very important. So I think that because it was middle class and because everybody was sort of the same, what was emphasized was excellence, trying to excel, not through money, but trying to get the best grades, trying to be a leader, trying to set an example for others. So it was a different kind of measurement. And I think that was one of the things that was really important to me. We were supposed to excel, to do the best that we can, and also to be of service to others. So I think that was a lesson of the middle class household that I grew up in, really, and really much of the same experience for many of my friends, which was terrific. And one of those friends is one of my best friends to this day. So her name was Fran Lebowitz. Some people may know her. She's a well-known, now late night comedy person, and has written some books. So we had a very, very, I think, positive childhood in that experience, in that middle class experience growing up in Morristown, New Jersey.
Yeah. And what I love about that too is it's not about how much money you have or wealth. It was like your success was defined by your character.
People paid attention to character,
Yeah.
Like yes. Yeah. That was the important thing. And that is still, when I meet people, that's still one of the most important things to me to this day, that they be of good character and that you can admire that in them.
So I am just, marveling at that background that you had and how it shaped you and how you got so interested in the areas of that finance and your career and your journey. So Debby, if it's okay, I'd like to delve into your next chapter of life, which is how you developed your career. And I'm telling you, your story, your career and the journey that you took could read like a storybook novel. And it's just cool to see how, your career, it illustrates building expertise across all these different areas of finance, but also taking calculated risks and also leveraging powerful relationships, which is something when we first talked to you and you were telling us a little bit about your story. I'd love you to share a little bit more about that.
I had a variety of experiences in finance, commercial banking before HBS, investment banking. Then it was a merchant bank with offices in New York and Hong Kong, then private equity, and then founding my own firm. Within that journey, I went to smaller and smaller firms because I wanted to be a bigger fish. And for women, it was easier to be a bigger fish in a smaller pond. So that was one of the reasons I followed that path as well. Also, an international experience was very important for me as well. And in those four things that I mentioned, I was able to spend a lot of time in Europe covering London and other countries when I was with Merrill Lynch. I lived in Hong Kong and Tokyo when I was with Merrill Lynch and covered Southeast Asia, which was really fascinating in 79 and 80. And then went back to a Hong Kong-based merchant bank and covered Asia again when things were changing even more, where India was a big part of that. And then eventually private equity and founding my own firm. So that was very important. And all through that, relationships were critical. Today, one of our largest investors was a friend of mine from Merrill Lynch. He ran the entire retail operation then. I kept in touch with him, and when we started our firm, went to him and I said, "This is what we're doing." And he said, "That sounds interesting. Either I'll put in $5 million or Merrill will." Well, he ended up putting a lot more than that in, and is still a great friend to our day. And in fact, we sublet space from him now. So it's very, very good. Also, mentors were very important to me. The chairman of Merrill Lynch International, who thought it was fascinating that as a young one, I went and had a career in Hong Kong and Tokyo. I went there because my husband at the time was assigned there. And so I traveled along behind him and did that. And so the chairman of Merrill Lynch International was a long time friend and a long time booster. And then his daughter is someone that I'm still in touch with. So all these relationships are important. And you build them along the way. And also you give back to them when they want something from you. HBS relationships were very, very important and are important to me to this day.
That theme I knew was so important and how it led you to things. So tell us the story. And I could tell the audience when Debbie told us the story about when she was fired once at Merrill Lynch. And we all, the best of that happens to the best of us.
Me too.
So,
yeah.
But the way that Debbie handled it is amazing. And it's a lesson for
Took charge.
So I just thought that, Debbie, could you tell us the story?
I'd had a great career at Merrill Lynch. I'd been there close to 11 years. As I said, I'd worked around the world. I'd had a variety of jobs. I'd been a securities analyst in Tokyo because I didn't know what else to do with women at the time. I'd been in investment banking. I had covered emerging economies and sophisticated economies. I spent a lot of time in Mexico. So it really was great. I also had management jobs at Merrill because I ran a division called Planning and Human Resources after I got back from Asia, because very few people in New York had experience around the world. And so they thought I would know a lot of people, and I did, hence the HR.
Yeah.
But in 1987, shortly after I had returned to investment banking, when they had a large reorganization at Merrill Lynch, completely split international from domestic, I was called. I had just gotten a very good review, by the way, for my job, and I was called into the room. And they said, well, we are doing a RIF here. We've looked at it and we've decided that you're one of the people you're going to cut. And I said, are you sure that's correct? I just had an excellent review. They said, yes, for sure. So I left, went back to my desk, thought about it. And this other woman that I know went rushing out and she said, I've had it here. I said, that's not going to be me. So I made an appointment with the head of investment banking and I made various points to him. I said, I got a great review. I'm one of the few people who knows anything about international. I have excelled in this way, and this way.
Yeah.
And by the way, because of all this, I should not have been fired clearly. But if you intend to let me go, I need 6 months of severance. I need an office for 6 months. I need a coach to assist me. I need a great resume. I asked for everything I could think of.
Love it.
He was dumbfounded and sat there and said, well, okay.
Oh, my God.
And they did. That was one of the most valuable experiences I had. If you don't ask, you will not get. If you feel you have been, shall I say, misinterpreted in any way or misjudged, go and do something about it. Tell them why they are wrong. That is probably one of the most valuable things I ever learned. It was important monetarily. It was important for my reputation. It was important for my self-esteem.
Yeah.
And then I went and got a fantastic job through an introduction by the chair of Merrill Lynch International to a fellow who had started a merchant bank, which was called Asian Oceanic. It's one of the first merchant banks to build a bridge between Asia and the U.S. This was before Glass-Steagall was repealed. Glass-Steagall, and many people on this that watch this podcast will not know what it is because it was the separation of investment banking and commercial banking. And so we actually could make investments as well from this firm. So I joined the firm as head of corporate finance in the U.S., was eventually promoted to head of worldwide corporate finance for them, moved back to Asia, started doing investing, and it was the beginning of my career as an investor, and it was terrific. I was very fortunate to have been fired from Merrill Lynch because it opened up new pathways that I probably never would have experienced. And oh, by the way, just about everybody got fired at some point.
I was just going to ask you that. Like, do you think it was one of the best things that could have happened to you? That it truly like opened up a different path? And
it truly did. And it also forced me to take control of my own career.
Yeah. and truly a big theme, and you just had it instinctively in you, Debbie, or did it come from mom and dad? That whole thing, you can do it. You can do anything. The fact that you spoke up like that.
By that time, my father had died and my mother had just blossomed into an extraordinary leader because my father was a strong personality. And my mother, I think, sort of needed that room to blossom. I also had been divorced by that time, and I had left Japan to come back to New York in 1981, basically had to start a whole new life, a new job at Merrill Lynch, a new place to live, left my ex behind. By the way, the best way to do that is to have an ocean between you, by the way.
I was just going to say.
It was very helpful, but I had to go through many life changes. So by the time this came, I knew I could handle it. I'd been through worse, trust me. And I thought, they're clearly wrong. I'm going to make my mark. And I had plenty of support in getting a new job and in really starting an entire new career. And so it was terrific. It was a big opportunity and it was a blessing in disguise.
Debbie, you have taken some very challenging situations in your life. And instead of being daunted by it, which, by the way, was demonstrated by that other woman who was fired from Merrill Lynch, you didn't do that. You figured out a pathway for yourself and forged a whole new path in life. And so, what would be the advice to women that find themselves either stranded or alienated or alone in a situation? And what should they do about forging ahead in their own lives? I mean, it's kind of a life question.
I'm an optimist by nature. And so when something happened that either I didn't like or was a setback or so, I thought, I would think to myself, they just don't appreciate me. I will show them. So I had that view also. And I would say to other women who've gone to HBS, you have the tools, you have the credentials that most of the world does not have and cannot even dream of. So never forget that you are as well prepared as anyone. You can stand there with the best of them. And so that is what I always thought. Also at HBS, they teach us to speak out. You have to speak in class. Yeah. You have to speak convincingly, and you have to have confidence in yourself. So I think that those tools that I gained and those assurances that I had really have kept me in good stead. And throughout those setbacks, I always thought, I will figure this out. I had the self-confidence to do it. And I always, was able to rely on my family, a close family. If you don't have family, you have close friends. You have people that you know who to rely on. You have the credentials. So never forget those things and those support systems that you have and use them. Don't be afraid to use them. Don't be afraid to ask for help and then be of help when someone asks you back, because they will. So I think that is probably one of the main things that I have to say and that I have really practiced so that these long-term relationships, whether it was from Merrill Lynch, whether it was from Asian Oceanic, whether it was from being in direct investing, or whether, and we used all the credentials when we set up StarVest and founded it in 1998, we each of the 4 partners went back and went to people who had played important parts in our careers and in our lives or in specific successful investments we had made. We got all of them to invest and to back us. And so that was a very important life lesson. You need to ask, you need to show people what you will do for them, and then let it fall into place. And if it doesn't, go out and choose another path. There's always another path to go down.
So optimistic and so forceful and powerful. And that's why you can make progress like you did in your career. I just want to cap this whole series off by asking you the whole question about, you are one of the top venture capitalists in the world, one of the top women, but one of the top venture capitalists. But meanwhile, here we are, it's 2025. And from what I read, only 17% of the top level positions in venture capital are held by women. Only 2% of women entrepreneur founders are getting funded. And the other statistic I found is I think 20% of women who are co-founders, perhaps with a male, are getting funded. What's your opinion of that? I mean, what's happened and what do we need to change?
I think there are a couple of things. I think and really do believe now is the time. 50%, more than 50% of the women at HBS, of the people at HBS are women. I think that's an important statistic. Training programs are filled with women, et cetera, et cetera. I think it is a matter of staying with it. I think resilience is very important. We have another factor. We have families to take care of. So you also need a partner who's willing to support you and to respect you. So I think if you do want to have a career, there's certain things that you have to really choose, that you do need to sort of set it up for you. I am optimistic. As I told you, by nature, I'm an optimist. I do think that people are much more welcoming now. I think that venture capital is very competitive. So why not back as many good people as you can? And I also would say to women, don't be afraid to take a risk. I think that's one thing that is different between men and women. And I think that you have to be comfortable with competition. You have to be comfortable with failure. And I think not enough women feel that way. And I do think that things are changing. They will change. But one of the challenges that I have is I'm trying to figure out the best platform for helping to provide this message to people. If you don't ask, you won't get. If you don't take a risk, you won't get something. And above all, you've got the tools. You can compete. Why not
Love
you?
that.
And that's one of the things that I've always said. And I gave a speech at Smith recently, and I looked at the audience and I said, remember, if not you, then who? If not you who will change the world, then who? If not us, then who? So that is my message. And I would give that today, especially to women, because we have a different perspective. In addition to being as qualified, as smart, as talented, we have additional empathy, which is a gift, which enables you to get along with more people in more venues better than your male counterparts. And don't forget that.
So Debbie, I have to full transparency share with you. I was at a women's event last night downtown Chicago, and we were asked to get up and speak. And I borrowed what you just said.
Great.
We were asked.
I am so happy.
Yeah. And I gave full credit. I said, I heard this from an incredible alum and leader who I've, had the good fortune to meet. And then when I Googled it, it's actually it's a Marine that had
I love
said,
it.
Like I Googled the history of it. And so thank you for letting me borrow that.
You're welcome. I hope more people do.
Yeah. Right. It's so appropriate,
Yes.
when it comes to playing that role to advocate on behalf of female leaders. And I loved it when you said it. So again, thank you. All right. So let's talk about today.
Yes.
So then we have StarVest. What's next? What's next for StarVest?
We are winding down our firm. We will have been in business for 27 years. My partner and I decided that we would rather wind it down ourselves, that we would rather be in control of the reputation of our firm and of its track record. We founded it, in 1998. It is hard to believe, 27 years ago, and we wanted to finish it. We're proud of our accomplishments and felt, let's do this ourselves. So we intend to exit in about a year, probably finish. I am currently on 3 boards of directors, actually 4, 2 public, 2 private. One of those is a StarVest company, which we feel will be one of our home runs, Planful, which is a planning and budgeting company based in, of course, Silicon Valley. Really terrific. And the other is a public company called Dayforce, which is run by an HBS fellow who's the CEO, very talented as well. And the other is another public company, Cumulus Media, which is run by a female CEO, which is one of the reasons I wanted to join that board.
Yeah.
If I can't support a female CEO, who can I support? So I joined that board. And then there's a private company that our largest investor asked me to represent them on the board of. So that is what I'm doing. Most of those will probably be, except probably Cumulus, will be wound up within the next couple of years, either sold or gone public or whatever. And so I think the next chapter, in addition to the nonprofit entities that I'm on a theater group. I'm on the American Friends of the Victoria and Albert Museum. The arts and education are my two things that I am most interested in supporting, as you could probably tell from when you recited the various things I've done for HBS and for Smith. And what I want to do is to figure out the best platform for mentoring others, for mentoring especially young women who want to be leaders, but also young men who have decided they want to make a difference, that they are open to all kinds of leadership and are willing to really play the role of assisting women on their journey. So that's what I want to do. I'm in the process of figuring out what is the best way. It is a podcast. Is it a book? What is it? What will people relate to and listen to? Is it speaking engagements? Is it panels? Many of which I'm done. Is it television? I don't know. So I'm in the process of figuring out. It may be a combination of all those things. If you have ideas, please let me know, because I am open and would love to hear them. Thank you.
I think there should be a movie about you.
I know. I was thinking that in the beginning. Yeah. See a movie. Yeah.
Fine. I don't know who played me. I'd have to approve that person.
No, you have to play yourself. That's it. There's nobody like you. That's great.
Oh, no. Thank you so much for just sharing all your incredible philosophies and insights and sharing your stories from your extraordinary journey. But Sherry and I have this fun little exercise that we do at the end of every webcast.
Okay. You gave me a hint about it.
It's our rapid fire questions. So we're going to ask you a couple. Maybe, I think we could probably do 4.
Okay. And you tell me which 4. So this is a surprise.
Well, Sherry knows which one I'm going to choose because I'm such an animal lover. Great. Cat or dog person?
Dog, 100%. And I'll tell you why. I had a dog for 13 years growing up. He slept at the end of my bed. He was my pal. I loved this dog. His name was Sazerac Pernod, which is the name of a French cocktail. I have loved France to this day. That was the start of it. My father came up with that name, by the way.
Oh, what a name. Well, when you called him to be with you, you didn't call him Sazerac, whatever.
Sassy. You're Sassy.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
We didn't call him that either.
You have a dog now?
No, I travel too much to have a dog. But my younger sister has a dog whom we adore, 14 years old, Cleo, who's a golden retriever.
I'm going to ask, what is the secret talent nobody else knows about?
I'm not sure it's so secret, so I'll tell you. There are 3 things I love. 2 people probably know: family, finance, and the third one is fashion. I adore fashion.
Yes, you can tell. We can tell you always.
Yeah. I don't think I could have gone into the business of fashion, although fashion is based very much in France, as you know, so it all goes together. I love French wine too, but I love fashion. I love what fashion represents. I love the symbolism. I love how it reflects our society. And I think that it's an art form as well as a personal decision that reflects your personality. Yeah. And that is why I'm interested in family, finance, and fashion.
Yourself.
Yes, how you present yourself. Yes.
I love that. Oh, good. Well, I come from the fashion industry in my childhood myself.
Fantastic.
So I
we have to talk more about that. I will enjoy learning more.
Oh, yes.
Favorite movie?
Okay. The Year of Living Dangerously.
Yeah.
I don't remember. It came out probably in 1990 or so. It starred Mel Gibson and Sigourney Weaver, and it was about Indonesia, an exciting, beautiful, mysterious, and dangerous time there. And it mirrored my experience in that country. I went to Indonesia a lot in actually it was the late, no, it wasn't the late 90s. It was after the movie. Actually, the movie took place, maybe it was 1970. It was Sukarno. And so it mirrored my experience there. It was a beautiful, mysterious, strange place. And you never knew what was going to happen. And I had amazing experiences there. One was sitting in a movie theater in northern Java with a partner of mine, a person from Asian Oceanic, and we watched a puppet show, an Indonesian puppet show, which they also had in the year of Living Dangerously. So that is my favorite movie, and that is why.
That is so cool. I love that. I could talk to you forever about these fun questions. I want to ask you so many, but I'm going to ask you something I'm really curious about. Okay. We've heard wonderful things about what you have done as a leader. Yeah. But what inspiring thing have you seen? What has inspired you that another leader did?
I thought hard about this. And one of the things that I will never forget was the fellow who was the chairman and founder of NetSuite, Evan Goldberg. There was a time when the CEO at the time of NetSuite said he was going to quit and he needed more money and he wanted more equity. And we said that we gave all the equity out. There's no more equity to give. And Evan said, let me give him some of mine. I have never in my business career seen anyone do that. He owned it. And he gave it to this other fellow to inspire him and to keep him there. And that did it. And to this day, Evan is someone I value as a friend, admire. He is still running NetSuite for Oracle. And it is probably the engine for that company and what enabled them to deliver software over the internet and a lot of what else that company's accomplished in the last 10 years. So that's something I never forgot. And it was an act of intense generosity and kindness on the part of a leader that I don't think we see enough of in this day and age.
I'm glad you raised that. I think it's important to talk about these types of extraordinary acts that really should be more the norm than it is. And thanks for bringing that up. That's awesome. And you played such a critical role, I know, in that whole era with Larry Ellison and Evan Goldberg and Mark Benioff, I think. So,
it was
it's
exciting.
Amazing
I was the lead director for all of the time NetSuite was public, and it was an extraordinary time when software as a service was coming. We competed with Mark Benioff of Salesforce, and it was just a never to be forgotten time and probably one of the highlights of my business career overall.
And only you could pull that off.
Well,
so that's great.
Good
job,
There
Debby.
will be others who will do that as well, though, I'm sure. And I hope so.
Wow, what a great story. Debby, thank you so much for sitting with us and conversing with us, telling us your stories. Just so inspiring for all of us. Thanks.
And thank you.
I think, yes, of course. Thanks to Deborah Farrington. Want to tell our audience where to go. You can see this podcast. Go to hbswa.org/podcast. And it's on all your favorite channels. Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, Apple. You can find us all of those places. And Debby, thanks again.
Thank you
again.
It was
your wonderful to talk to you.